Good evening, everyone. We welcome you all to Ortho TV Monday Motivation Webinar Series. Today is the 44th Monday Motivation Webinar, the only non-stop series on Ortho TV. Today we have with us our two moderators, Dr. Tushar Agarwal and Dr. Dhiren Ganjwala. And to introduce today's speaker and topic, I hand over the proceedings to Dr. Dhiren Ganjwala.
Good evening and Happy New Year, friends. Welcome to the first session of Monday Motivation in the year 2021. It's my pleasure to introduce today's guest speaker, Professor Dr. Padmakali Banerjee. Dr. Banerjee is a Pro-Vice Chancellor of famous MIT University in Haryana. She is an institutional builder, thought leader, leadership coach, and a psychotherapist. All these qualities aptly make her a professional par excellence. She has received several awards and recognition as a leader as well as an educator. One of her recent awards includes prestigious 2018 Greenville Leadership Award for her contribution towards environment. She has contributed a lot to the field of education. She is also a meticulous curriculum designer. She has received an award of excellence for promotion of school psychology. She is known for her innovative initiatives. One of them is the flexible credit system, which she has recently launched. She has developed an optimism index, a predictive tool for success, and it is widely used by corporates for profiling and training. Her book, The Power of Positivity, Optimism and the Seven Sense, is a very popular worldwide. Her dream is to transfer the world into a happier place to live by instilling hope and optimism. She is going to speak on a topic which is very close to her heart, the power of positivity, a leap of well-being. We need this topic very much in this year because last year, 2020, was really a lot of chaos in our life. And we all expect that this year, 2021, will bring hope and optimism. So with that positivity, now I hand over to Professor Dr. Padmakali Banerjee. Thank you.
Thank you, and very good evening and a happy new year to the great audience that we have. I must start by saying that in the most darkest moments, it is time that we need to focus to see the light. So I think all of us who have witnessed this unprecedented times in these last 9 months, we know that we have had turbulent times. We know that the words which became common were social distancing, the hand washing, and all of these kind of jargons came into our life. But we also realized the importance of human relationships that we have, the network that was around us. So when the pandemic hit us, we all suddenly woke up and realized the importance of people around us. So let me tell you, right from the early stages in my life, I was quite a dreamer, and you grew up in a very cosmopolitan and industrial environment that I grew up. And while I was getting into the field in my higher studies into management and psychology, I was always very interested in why people are successful and why some leaders are not successful. So while I was doing a lot of training and consulting, while I was at various capacities as dean and director and pro-vice chancellor, I got more and more interested in this area of success and what leads to success. So while we had extremely, successful people, but in spite of maybe few graduates coming up from the top institutions, but some succeed and others don't. So what happened was, while I was doing research on it, I came across this whole area of psychology, which was more commonly and popularly called the positive psychology, which talked about the importance of understanding the good side of psychology in terms of not just whatever problems that you have, but where do we go in terms of the solutions for those problems. So if you look at, I started working on the area of learned optimism. So while doing it, and I remember, presenting a paper in this area of learned optimism, and we realized that that was one common factor that was binding. So in spite of having 10 other, success factors that you have in life, there is one factor that takes you and helps you to become successful. And so in my view, that is your resilience, and which is your optimistic intelligence. In this book of The Power of Positivity, Optimism and the Seventh Sense, I have talked about optimism as the seventh sense. Just like you have the sixth sense, which is your intuition, and now there is so much of research on intuitive learning that you have learned one software and you can easily move on and learn a new software. Similarly, your brain helps you to do that. So similarly, if you look at your attitude towards life, so what happens is optimism, which is an attitude, acts like a beacon of light and helps you to take right decisions in life. So now if you look at this whole optimism area that I've talked about, so optimism has a combination of couple of things that I have brought out in one of my model that I have trademarked, and where I have talked about one aspect of optimism is, yes, your positive emotion, which you can call it in simple terms as happiness, whatever is joyful, whatever you feel good about. So even smiling could be a part of your positive emotion. When you're interacting and you are giving a positive stroke to a person, so that is also, your positive emotion. Or you're generally happy when you get up on a scale of 0 to 5, as we speak, and on your notebook, if you write down what you feel right now in terms of your emotion, how happy you are, so that becomes your positive emotion. Then there is very important area that I want to touch upon, and I really love to work with and understand and read a lot about the thinkers and the philosophers. So I was always very motivated, and I was interested to read Aristotle. So there Aristotle, very interestingly, has talked about a concept called eudaimonic well-being, which combines purpose in life and meaningfulness. So my second factor in my model is engagement. The more an individual is engaged in the work that they do, the more it becomes your purpose in life, the more happier you are. So it is also contributing to your optimistic intelligence. So on one side, you have positive emotion. The second aspect is your engagement with the purpose in life. Then the third, which I'm talking about, is your relationship network, the network that you build around yourself. So it is often said that, you should be in good company. So what it is really that there is a lot of, synergy that is there. I have seen, entrepreneurs, I have seen, experts, I've seen mental health professionals, I've seen doctors. The more you are having a solid network, so whenever there is an issue that you want to hold on, or there is a very big challenge that you're facing, you're able to communicate and get a lot of support. Not only support from the knowledge point of view, but it is also an emotional support that you get. So I think it is extremely important that you create a robust network around you. Now, interestingly, this network could be a group of peer group. The network could be professional group. Network could be a social engagement group that you are part of. Now with the new media which has come in, it is very easy to move out. And so you are able to easily, for example, we have so many Facebook and WhatsApp and so many groups where there is a lot of communication that is giving you some kind of a support. Especially if you look back during this COVID time, that was our only way to reach out to people in terms of when there was so much of social distancing and distress. Then if you move forward to the next factor, you're talking about meaningfulness in life. So you want to work on a goal. If you do not find meaning in what you're doing, sometimes it is told that you should not choose a profession if you are not enough motivated or you do not find it meaningful. Now, meaningfulness also contributes to the optimistic intelligence. So whatever life that you're leading, so one aspect could be your general happiness, the way you are, your temperament. Then the aspect which I've talked about is your purpose, engagement in whatever profession or your vocation, whatever you choose in life. Relationship network gives you a lot of support, and there is a lot of exchange that happens continuously, and you evolve as a person. And when I'm talking about meaningfulness, it gives you a further purpose in life and determination to do things. So it has been seen that many of you, I mean, many of the participants I know are doctors. So most of you are experts in your field. You're professionals with a, a particular, you may be in from a particular stream and you're working in those areas. So if you find it more and more meaningful, you become great researchers. And it is also seen that when you look at the final aspect and the final factor, which actually contributes to your optimistic intelligence or your seventh sense, is your sense of accomplishment. If you're not able to celebrate your wins, if you always feel that, self-critical, you are not able to enjoy the accomplishments. So just there could be small wins in your life. So it is very critical that we should work on the area and try to find out what is our accomplishment. Now, what I did was based on the kind of model that I had created, I developed a psychometric tool called Optimism Index 1.1. In that index, what we are doing is when the test is very interesting in terms of it gives you a quick result. There is also an online where it is freely available. I wanted to bring to the world something which is free. So I created that tool. So it is a tool which will also measure your, mental health. So it is a mental health screening tool, as well as it is used in the corporate to understand the attitude of the people. So because through your optimistic intelligence, you are able to measure the optimism quotient. Now, this is all very technical in terms of, what I did and how I did. Now, the point is what becomes very important is the pressures that we are, dealing with constantly. So where again, I go back and say that unless there are, pains, there cannot be pleasures in life. So it is seen that, most of us, during these times, during these challenging times, whenever we have listened to any kind of painful situation, we all undergo deep pain, and which is a very common thing. It is common to feel sad. It is common to feel low, but beyond a particular threshold, when your stress becomes distress and then it moves to despair, that is the time that you are troubled. That is the time that you're not able to take a good decision in life. So what is very critical then is have to have a balance in life. Because I'm going to tell you a small story about a very eminent physician who had confided in one of the therapy sessions and has said that he was a great surgeon, but he got slowly addicted to alcohol. Now the doctors know the best way how to heal alcohol, but the problem was somewhere else because of the lifestyle and not able to dedicate enough time for oneself or for reflection. He went on into it, and for every time he knew it. He's a great doctor. So over a couple of sessions, we could identify that he had other problems like sleep disorder, because when your stress moves to a particular level, you experience a lot of other issues, which anyway most of the doctors are very well aware of. So I'm not only talking about the physical aspects, I'm talking about your emotional feeling. I'm talking about the way your normal life gets disrupted. So where we worked on and I'm researching on, and I've created a very interesting model of well-being called the LEAP model. Now, based on the LEAP model, there is also a very interesting tool called the LEAP's well-being scale, which measures your level of well-being. So like I mentioned in the very beginning, like you cannot easily change your personality, you cannot change your IQ that you're born with, you cannot change your past, but one thing that you can change is your attitude towards life. One thing that you can change, that you can acquire a new network. One thing that you can change is that you can create a purpose for you in life. I very strongly believe, for example, if you look at, how, what Vivekananda did and how he became an icon for the youth because he had a purpose in life. And he kind of almost made it clear that unless you have a compelling vision to attain or a passion in life, you can never be happy. So something which becomes very critical in the aspect of well-being is that I have stressed a lot on this aspect of eudaimonic well-being. So here, if you look at in the LEAP model or in the tool that many of you have already taken the tool because the link was shared to you and I have seen the results. So what it does is it gives you at least 5 aspects. So L is your passion for life or life and living, where it could be anything to do with a nature walk, or you're passionate about understanding how world is moving. Somebody is passionate about astronomy. You may be a doctor but you're passionate about something else in life, and what you do with that in your personal relationships is very critical. And that L is love for life in terms of passion and what you do towards life related to that aspect. So most of how you are, and well-being is all about how you feel about yourself. It's not, nobody is measuring you like your blood pressure. It is about how you're feeling. It is very important to express that. And when you're through the psychometric tool, you're able to identify that this is what you score. And then you look at E is for your expertise. So many of the, I've seen the people who are in the age group of say 40 to 50, their expertise scores are quite interesting because they have spent more and more time in what they are known for. So if I look at typically educators or doctors or people or lawyers who are in a particular profession, I've seen within the cycles that they have, some of them may be deficient in L, but they're good in their E, which is your expertise area, what you are good at. So that is your E factor in the LEAP. A is your adaptability to the environment. Now, who better than all of us in this era know what is adaptability? When the biggest catastrophe struck us in this last year, we have learned how to adapt to the environment. If you look at the goals, sustainable developmental goals, where it has been so clearly talked about health and well-being, which is SDG 3, these are the global goals. But how many really, all of us, really care for the adaptability to the environment, or in terms of pollution? Are we really bothered about it? So it says that if you are dedicating some time towards adapting not only to your own requirements, but to what the environment is required, what the people around in the community. See, you cannot change the entire world. You cannot change the country. You cannot change your community. You cannot change even your family, but you can bring about some change in you. So what is very important in that aspect is your adaptability to the environment. So that is your A. So LEA. P is your profession. So how you earn money from, what brings you your bread and butter. So you may be an expert and then you're also a professional. So that is where you are earning money. So an expertise could be also in the sense that you are a great communicator, or you are great with, you're a computer wizard. That could be your expertise. You can still become a great doctor. So that's your profession through which you're also able to earn your living. So that is also one very important aspect of living. So if people who are not having enough engagement, and I'm really, my heart goes out to the people who have lost their jobs, people who have got financially, they are broke. I have, being a leadership coach, I work with a lot of corporate people, and there I see that there is so much of burnout happening inside the pressure cookers. Now, pressure cookers have moved from hospitals, from the corporate to even the hospital environment. So everywhere, wherever you go, I have seen people handling their problems. So, I mean, profession becomes also a very critical aspect of your well-being. And S is the spirituality angle. So when I say spirituality, I'm not talking about the religious aspect, but how spiritual you are in terms of what you do towards your community, how you look at life in general, how you are non-judgmental, how you live and let others live. So it's your way of life. How do you create and inculcate that way of life? So very important aspect of that spirituality is your mindfulness, the kind of me time that you have, the way that you're able to do a little bit for the society. So people choose their own goals. So, I mean, that's something which is critical. And coming back to the point on the leap for well-being, yes, it is very important to heal yourself, because if you cannot heal yourself, you cannot heal the your patients, you cannot heal the people in your own family. So if you are able to follow the very good pattern of this leaps, create a better well-being. So what is healing? When you heal, you know, you could have a catastrophic, the problem with most of us are that we moved into a zone. Like pain is contagious. The moment we hear a pain, we all feel painful. But similarly, hope is. So why don't we pick up the right information and the right news? We have a habit of, you know, moving into the catastrophic thinking, and once there is a bit of a loss or a pain, we look at the worst that can happen in life, and that gives us even more pain and even more suffering. So what we need to do in the process of healing is connecting to a good network, creating a well balanced life in terms of not just taking your multivitamin pills or walking, but also creating a kind of whenever you're doing some service, it is a very good way of healing oneself. That when I when I've seen my some of the patients who are undergoing therapies on depression, the moment you start thinking about another person, your half of your mind is moving towards in doing a service to the others. You start feeling healed. So even as a psychotherapist, I do feel that even though it may be very challenging to, you know, when you're interacting or counseling or mentoring, but it is, you are able to heal yourself. Also, I have mentioned that it is very important to create, like I have talked about mindfulness exercise, that through a labyrinth walk meditation. You know, labyrinth was discovered years ago, thousands of years ago, and that is a geometrical space, and you will find labyrinth in most of the across the world, very close to, you know, the sometimes it is close to even spiritual spaces, places, but generally it is an architectural you know, space, and a very geometrical, and it say it has magnetic field is very interesting. So we have, I have created, and through the Google you are able to also locate, there are labyrinth locators. So I have also created a labyrinth locator, and it is there in Gurugram. So I have had people who have come in, so people from the US, from the different parts of the world, young and old people have come in, and while you walk, you go inside the labyrinth, you are focusing on your thoughts, your cognition, and you're able to, whatever, you know, conflicts that you have, by the time you move into the center of the labyrinth, spend some time, reflect, rejuvenate, and come back. This whole process could take maybe about 20 minutes. So, I mean, if you don't have a labyrinth, try to find out something very close to your community where you are able to, when you're walking, it is important to be connected to the walk, you know, emotionally, mentally. But most of us, what we do, we are either plugging in a phone, or we are trying to analyze a case history, and we are quickly, you know, counting our steps. That too we don't count today. Either your Apple phone or your, you know, Fitbit is counting those steps. So you're not connecting physically and mentally and emotionally. So till we are not, you know, in sync with our thoughts and our process and our behavior, we will never feel the sense of, you know, that peace within us. So well-being, very interestingly, let me tell you, while although we are going through some of the most crisis times, and I always tell, for example, I work also with a lot of young learners and school children, for school teachers, because I said, yes, doctors have been the warriors in the front, but if you look at the school teachers and the educationists in the schools and colleges, they also have been warriors in their own right. Because the way, you know, the education system went from an offline mode to an suddenly seamlessly to into an online mode, and people in the families also faced all kinds of challenges. So we went through a roller coaster ride of the Sensex index, financial difficulties, but through all of this that we witnessed, why did some people take it better than others? because people who are able to practice, because many of the people who had a strong engagement, who had a passion in life, lot of entrepreneurs, because I coach a lot of young entrepreneurs, so many tech companies, young edutech companies, young fintech companies, many companies came in. And so we know that, we have talked about in India saying vocal for local, and we've talked about all of these aspects, creating a lot of synergy. I've seen so many entrepreneurial ventures that have come in. Earlier, we saw products coming in as entrepreneurship. Today, we saw services. So where I think in the healthcare sector also, there is need to think, because and we should see that how we can bring in some aspect of self-management, because I know there was so much of an inhibition of going online when doctors had to even see reports. But today, because of the problems that we face, we could easily, believe on the technology and move online. And this is also true for the psychotherapists and the clinical psychologists. And, so somewhere we need to have a hybrid system within the community, that how do you help? So creating a, good environment around us. And there is one, question that is there, that if you are the core predisposed to pessimism, how do you change it? So while I said that, it is a two different scales. I don't treat optimism and pessimism as separate things. I treat them as two different continuums. That at a certain point in time, there is a particular tragedy, or there is a great problem that you have faced in life. To a large extent, over a period of time, you may be fearful, because, courage, is an attribute that is the most important attribute, because it leads to the next attributes. It leads to any other attribute that you can acquire. So I think one of the things that you see in these challenging times, or when you are getting into the catastrophic mode of thinking, that you need to kind of put a stop to it and move on to the aspects in life which are much more positive, in terms of the happy relationships that you may have, dedicating time to the elderly. For example, I've seen that now in India, of course, we often talk about the young population and we are a youthful nation, but we also agree that there is a huge population out there, the geriatric population. So if we are able to dedicate some time, maybe possibly looking at the solutions that we can come. So as practitioners, act as medical experts, I think there needs to be some kind of innovative thinking where we can come out with certain solutions for different age groups. For example, for the youngsters, their stress levels are different and there are a different uncertainty that has hit them. A question that I'd asked, that in many audiences I do ask, because here I can also tell you that one of the things that if you ask yourself what you felt most over these past months, so was it the sense of anxiety that was high? Was it the sense of uncertainty that hit you badly? Was there sleep disturbances that you had? Or whether you felt worthless and felt you're moving nowhere? I think these have been the common results, but the strongest result that we have, the most common result that we have seen, is that despair and anxiety. So what did despair did in such troubled times, that it made you so low that you could not take decisions? We have heard of, so many suicides that happened during these years, these months, last 1 year. So for what did that happen? Why did that happen? Because we have focused so much on one aspect of our life that we are not looking at the passion and the love for things in life. We have not spent enough time on the spirituality of the life in terms of healing and mindfulness. We have not paid attention to the other aspects of life, which could be related to your working on something. Like, lot of people during this period have gone in and learned a new skill. Many people have moved on to understanding a new software or worked on a new, people have changed lifestyles. During this period, I know people who have taken a pledge that, I found it very difficult. Now that I'm working from home, I have changed my lifestyle and I've become very fit. So it is extremely important to look at that. So we really need to focus on the overall aspects in life and living, and we need to look at and focus on how do you acquire certain skills and competencies that are going to take us ahead in life. Also, let me tell you that while you're trying to work on, we don't need to work on well-being the way you need to work on a project. Well-being should be part and parcel of your life. Like, if you are able to create a little space at home where you are able to find some quiet moments, you're able to do some reflection. Another very interesting way to look at the well-being aspect could be reading in general, because I've seen that not just read a bestseller, but you read, the works of the past philosophers, thinkers who have brought so much to this world. So if you look at the people who have the best leaders who have created a mark, whenever we look at, some of the corporate leaders that we hear more often, for example, if we talk about Steve Jobs, creating such a big Apple from how could he do that? Because he had this passion of calligraphy and he created a beautiful, Macintosh. So if you look at, how your passion in life can also get reflection into a profession in life, and somewhere they all meet. And that is something that I think is very important, and we can focus on creating a leap. Like I often say, that instead of just doing a SWOT analysis of strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats, we need to do a leap for well-being. You need to create a balance between what you're doing in life. You need to create a balance in understanding relationships. Biggest problem today that we are seeing as psychologists are issues that are coming to us is related to relationship, and the second is addiction. And the third is coming related to the sleep disorder, sleep pattern problems, because we are not focusing enough on ourselves. So all of these are related to that, because we are become, and more we use technology. Remember, while technology is an aid, it is means to an end, but not end in itself. So what it happens is there is time that is needed where you need to be away from technology. So you need to connect to people. You need to have compassion. You need to have, that sense of, responsibility and accountability towards the people in your own life, towards the people in your own community. And of course, I think values and ethics plays a great role. Not only that we have to go through the ethics and compliances more as a norm or a rule, but as a way of life. How we can bring in ethics and values in our life in order to create a sense of accomplishment, a sense of satisfaction that we get when we are doing something following certain ethics and values. And I can also understand one more important aspect, because I was talking to a few doctors during these times, because you have gone through so much of crisis, because many of you have been taking so many medication to keep well so that you can keep the others people in a better frame of mind. What is one of the most things that they were very disturbed was their family. They felt that, if something happens, because again, we were, they also went into that mode of catastrophic thinking. So they were very worried about families. So I know people, so they had to go on for a lot of, mindfulness and therapy sessions themselves. And there is one other new area that I have worked on, and that is called the hypnotic relaxation. Of course, hypnosis is not an old subject. It has been used by Freud and many other. Mesmer, from the word mesmerism, has come in. So right from those era, hypnotic relaxation was there, and today it has been seen as one of the very important ways to be used in our day-to-day life. So even if you can do a guided relaxation with the help of, even as doctors, even a psychologist needs to heal in order to heal themselves. So I think it's an eclectic approach. We need to look at the life as a whole, and create that sense of satisfaction about oneself. And it is also to understand how you want to feel satisfied about who we are. We need to possibly do some journaling, because the moment you start journaling, you create a mind map. So when you're doing a journaling, and these are some of the things I'm saying, although I'm having a conversation with you. So I really need to tell you that there are no hard and fast rules. But definitely, when you do journaling over a period of time, you realize what you wanted to do and what you have done now. So sometimes it helps you to focus on yourself. It helps you to focus even on your goals. It also helps you to reflect on the things that have gone by. It also helps you to analyze and create a pathway for your own self. So I would say that in order to create more courage within, you need to do journaling and focusing a lot on capability building. So the more competencies you have to handle the aspects, so I would say that as professionals, it is extremely important to go for, say, refresher sessions, understanding, getting into conversational dialogue sessions, analyzing case studies, actually doing a lot of research work where you're able to look at the past history and able to try to see the analytics. And the final side, which I see where it is also very closely associated, I would say, that there is an aspect of even artificial intelligence which has come in, that you're able to predict, in terms of not just medical prediction in terms of the physical aspects of life, but if you see a person who is constantly in a zone, on that zone in my optimism index scale below green, which is orange and yellow, and if you're constantly feeling over a period of time, you're able to quickly analyze what that person is going to face. So if you're feeling that there are some issues, we need to break that inhibition. So bring that into our normal, drawing room conversation. Bring that onto the table. There is no harm for a doctor to sometimes feel stressed. It is very normal and natural. It is very normal for any professional to get into that mode. And also, of course, I feel that because I've also partnered with a nutritionist and I'm working on the area of nutrition and well-being. So while on one area that people have talked about, eat right food for better, feeling better, and I say on the other side also, if you feel better, we will definitely have a better metabolism. You will definitely have a better lifestyle. So I think it is very important. So I think we need to choose the happiness factor. We need to choose optimism. So what it is going to do, it is going to help us strengthen our resilience for life. It is going to strengthen the way we think about life in general. And also, I think mostly it is not just being self-critical. Sometimes we feel distressed because we feel frustrated if we may not get success in the way things are in life. So, I mean, there are moments in life that it is very normal to feel distressed. But the biggest problem is when there is despair. So, I mean, through this approach, I would suggest that it would be great that we focus on your leap, take care of your own motivation, your own understanding about self and others. So, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for a wonderful explanation about the optimism. I have a few questions, and these questions we have received from audience also. The first question was about the difference between hope and optimism. Like we use this two words quite interchangeably. So is it the same thing or they have a different meaning?
I would say that optimism leads to hope. If you are predisposed, if you have a mindset, when you talk about your attitude, that your attitude is that you are accepting life as it is, you have enough things to look forward to, you have a great purpose in life, so you're hopeful about things because you are engaged, you are finding meaningful projects, you're finding great relationship network around you, you are generally happy, you are generally able to enjoy and your wins. So I think optimism creates hope and sometimes vice versa. And hope further reinforces your optimism.
Okay, the second question is about is it like those who are believing in the God? they have more optimism. Is it like that?
I would not like to question a lot, delve a lot on the religious aspect, but when you say God, definitely we are talking about some kind of a, I would say spiritual angle where you are talking about creating some kind of a balance. So what happens is when you are believing in God means you're spending some time either praying or you're doing some kind of a, in India, like we call it satsang, or you cleaning up your whole house. So while you're doing that, you're definitely creating well-being around you. So not, you can do it through different purposes. There are some people after doing seva, where they go out and do social work and the same feeling they get. So whether it is through religion, through spirituality, through seva, through the kind of, today the dialogue that we are having with each other, there's a sense of well-being coming to us.
You must have analyzed a lot of people across the different educational level. Do you feel that education has inverse relation with optimism, or it has a direct relation with optimism?
Well, when I said optimism, I said that, see, when I'm talking about seventh sense, which is your optimistic intelligence, not optimism in general. So, you cannot be optimistic all the time, but you can have optimistic intelligence, which means you have good OQ. And that is what I call seventh sense. So people who have a strong seventh sense, I have seen, in fact, we have done classification. So there are 11 such classifications. Some are experts, some are entrepreneurs, and you will have all those detailing given in my book on Power of Positivity. So we can classify people on the basis of their optimistic intelligence, and there are different classifications. So you can have people who are educators who may have high on optimism. You may have great professionals, but they had their OQ is very low and they find a lot of challenge in dealing with teams. They find it very difficult to convince each other, and they find it a problem. They can't work in as a synergistic team with people.
There is a most important question, like how to develop optimism. You like suggested some, but like, can you enumerate 1, 2, 3, 4, like you said about journaling? So can you tell us in nutshell, like your tips about how to develop optimism?
Yes, it's a great question. When we say that, I could just give you some tips because everybody can create their own pathway. Because, there are individual differences in this society, that you may have a certain skill and competency which another X person may not have. So what is important to first, that's why identify your passion or say purpose in life. Suppose individual's purpose in life is to, you have some terminal values. So if you keep some terminal values in life, so what it does, it further reinforces you to work on that area. Similarly, like I would suggest that all of you and all of us actually, we can look at moving on to that adaptability to the environment. Like I talked about in the leaps, that if you are adaptable to the environment, what do? You need to acquire new skills. You will acquire new technology. You will understand each other. You will relate to different cultures, because there was a time that we would not work with cross-cultural issues was a problem. Today, medical tourism has become so common. Now you're interacting on real time on project groups across the world. So I think so. So once you have a purpose in life, it reinforces you to do things. Then you have adaptability to the environment you create. So at least I would suggest, to 2030, the world, we have global goals. So out of the 17 goals, pick up on one goal and work on something for some of the area that you want to do. So that's to do with your profession and your life. Then another very important and a very strong area are your relationships. We take it for granted. People in our family, people in our team. So sometimes it is important to go beyond that and spend time, not just, even when you go on vacation, there's so much of a schedule that when you're catching the flight, when are you coming back, and what is the itinerary? Nobody is really spending that much of, conversational time. So I would say that it is important to have that kind of friends and people around you with whom you're able to, create that, bonding time that you can have. So sometimes it is seen that when young children move to their grandparents, there is a lot of bonding that happens. Storytelling is another area that I've seen in the young adults. And similarly, that finally, like I said, that I mentioned about it briefly, but when you read or you get into a new knowledge area, that is another way it reinforces you to be optimistic. So you are creating a network, you're creating adaptability to the world, you're creating meaningful projects, you're picking up, you have a great synergy now, you're open to ideas, you have a little entrepreneurial mindset to be having your optimistic intelligence. So what happens, you can spring back into action every time you fall down. So what does OQ do really? A seventh sense actually helps you to face life's challenges. So life will always be full of challenges. So we know now so well during these times that there could be a very chaotic world. Not just now, this was a big challenge. We do not know what other challenges you're going to face. But if you are strengthening your own resilience, if you strengthen your own attitude towards life, in terms of your seventh sense and your optimistic intelligence, your eudaimonic well-being, your leap, you're able to handle the issues better.
Then you mentioned about the labyrinthine walk. So what is that? I could not understand the concept. So can you explain and how to develop that in our area?
Right. So what I did was when I was researching about when I was working a lot, because I work in the area of mindfulness also. So there are different kinds of meditative forms. So in my book on Power of Positivity, there is one whole chapter I think I've dedicated on the labyrinth walk meditation, where I have used the labyrinth geometrical design and meditation. I've combined the two. So while you will find labyrinth in different parts of the world, and people generally move around, and it is, you will see in close to different parts within the world. I think even in India, in some part, it has slowly been used by architects also to create that kind of design, because it said the magnetic field is very interesting there in a labyrinth. The form, the design is very scientific. So I picked that design, and there is through Google you can have a labyrinth locator. So if you search for labyrinth locator, you will find one labyrinth in our campus that I created at Gurgaon. And what we are doing is, through that, when you are walking, you're able to do the mind. So people go for a morning walk, but when you do a spiritual walk, when you're actually doing a walk where you go barefoot on the grass, it is generally done in gardens. Sometimes people do it also on rooftops, and there is a certain diameter. For example, it can have minimum say 9 meters to 11 meters. So you need a certain amount of space. Create that space. Lot of places and then you can walk around it and reflect around. So you can go in and out. There is a difference between labyrinth and maze. Maze, you can get lost because there are different directions. In labyrinth, there's only one way in and one way out. So you have to move in a particular path, and which gives you a lot of concentration, which also helps you in focusing. And you do it slowly. And every time you feel you have not yet want to go to the center, you can stand at a particular level. So it has been used for different purposes. There are celestial labyrinths also. There are different forms of labyrinth, but I have picked up the Jupiter labyrinth and I worked on it because Jupiter labyrinth concentrates a lot on decision making, used very good for education purposes, for life decision making. So that's what it is. So, and also I've created a card through which can be used for training sessions also. Like sometimes elderly people can't go for a meditative walk, but while the same thing can be transferred through the technology, and also some apps where we can convert it, but it's not gaming at all. It's about meditation and mindfulness.
Then there is a question by Dr. Tushar. Can optimism, maybe over optimism?
Yes. So what I'm saying, what I want to clarify, one is being optimistic and optimism being a way of life. So while over optimistic, you can be on a certain circumstance. For example, you have done everything right. Say it could be a surgery conducted, everything went and it was one of the toughest and you've done everything, you're over optimistic, but you don't get the results, right? So sometimes because of the experience that we have, circumstance, past experience, we sometimes become over optimistic. But if a person who is optimistically intelligent, like who is having resilience, we are not, so we cannot confuse between being over optimistic, optimism, and over optimistic.
Then, if you permit, I would like to show you one of the analysis which has been done by your LIPS analysis, and I would like to understand the meaning of scoring. So, can I share a screen?
Okay.
Yeah. So this is for the audience, like we have shared this link in the YouTube as well as in the Facebook. So in the comment box, you can have this link. You can click on this and then you will be able to have your own analysis about your optimism. Here is one. Yeah, so here is one, sorry, one score. So can you explain what does this mean?
Okay. So while I must mention that the score that you're right now getting is a very brief summary. It is not an exhaustive report of every person, but the brief summary is identifying your leaps, which I've talked about. So when I've talked about, if you look at out of 9 out of 10, this is the scoring, right? But this is done over a percentile norm. So based on the norm, the scores are given. So how you are behaving, what is your score as compared to the people, maybe thousands of people who fall in that category, adults. So here, there are these 5 categories. So love and passion in life, like I mentioned, that what are you passionate about in life? It also comes from the relationships in life. So that is your one aspect of your well-being. Then your expertise or your competence, that is what your capabilities in life. That also is a very important factor in your towards your experiencing well-being. Because let me reiterate that every time you are looking at your well-being, it is how you feel, right? Well-being score is not about any other statistics, but what is your feeling about yourself. So your expertise, that do you feel that you're incapacitated and I am not good enough, I do not have certain skills, so then your scores may be something much below 5, right? So that you are not capable. So that's your well-being score for your expertise that you have. So people, if you are having low score in that, here the score is fairly okay on the 10. So if you look at here, it means that you are fairly satisfied in this factor. So it is contributing towards your overall well-being or your eudaimonic well-being. Then there is this adaptability to environment. Like I mentioned earlier, that how you're adapting to the world around you. It could be your own people, it could be the society, it could be our country, it is the global environment, the when we talk about the sustainability. So all of that is your adaptability to technology, adaptability to any new system that comes, adaptability to change. Who other than us we understand? So that is the adaptability aspect. So again, you're scoring yourself. You have you feel where you are in terms of adapting to the environment around you. How quickly can you, I tell you that from tomorrow onwards, now you are not going to wear this uniform, or your OT timing is going to change or something else. Are you able to adapt so quickly? How could you easily adapt to the online, counseling, or when you're treating patients online? Then it comes to your professional excellence. What is it that, how are you, when you talk about, remember when I said professional, I talked about where you earn your living from. So which means that people are acknowledging and you are aware of it, and you are satisfied that you're doing professionally well, not just in terms of economic viability or the earning money, but your achievements, your recognition, that comes from your, that well-being is also very important for us in life. Then you move to your spirituality and the worthy living, that you are part of this planet. You have come here with a purpose. You have certain life goals, you have certain terminal values, you have certain responsibility towards people around you. What are you doing spiritually? Are you also, the spirituality takes care of your meditation, spirituality takes care of your how you are interacting to the um, flora and fauna, that also comes under that aspect, right? And finally you get your overall score. So this is a very brief summary, because obviously this needs much more interaction for getting detailed reports, but that at a glance you're able to get your overall well-being, how you are. So if you're getting a score of 8 out of 10, which is quite good score in terms of your well-being, but let me also tell you, the score may over a period of time may also differ. So you also see that, early in life, lot of young adults may not have high scores on expertise, but they may have high scores on adaptability. For example, I've seen where here, adaptability to environment, I've seen a lot of youngsters scoring very high, because, they are born in a very chaotic world. They are quickly ready to change. And similarly, this whole aspect of love and passion can also be improved in life. Like if it's at certain time in life you realize that I have not dedicated enough time to understand what is that I like. Like I often said in one of my interactions earlier, I said that if you tell me that we should all have one passion every 5 years in life, try to look at something new. Being even a classical singer, I've done classical Indian music earlier, but now possibly now in my career, even after I'm in an academic, profession, as well as training and psychotherapy, I would definitely want to learn piano. So I've set something as a goal for myself. So this is a gist about the score that you have shown.
Yeah, but if you look at the spirituality and the worthy living, the score is pretty low. So, what is the significance of that, and how to modify or improve that?
Yeah. So, like I said, there needs to be much more other collaborations. For example, what are the other things about that individual? For example, who the person is, what are the age group of the person, what is the profession of the person, how much. So, it is the person's analysis of spirituality. The person may not be spending enough, doesn't mean that they are of no, they are not worthy enough. They have scored themselves in spirituality low, means there is a need for that. There is a need to spend more time in worthy living. So a lot of time you will see experienced people moved into community service. Experienced people move into, for example, such a lovely platform like this, where you're able to move and talk to the masses. So you are fulfilling your need for worthy living. Or also, like I said, your mindfulness and your meditation. So that aspect.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So, thank you. Like we are now coming to the end of the program. Already 1 hour passed so fast that we could not realize that. The most important thing is like Yeah,
I just
please.
saw one question. They said that is it whether optimism is genetic? So I wanted to really say something. Although optimism, I do not know. There are a lot of doctors who would be able to tell you genetic side, the genetic engineers. But I will tell you one thing. There is a lot of vicarious learning. So environment definitely plays a role. So if a child is growing up in an environment where there is negativity and for everything you stop a child, they will not become so creative. So the answer to that is yes, there is a lot of vicarious learning and environment that plays a role, your personality. And finally, I emphasize a lot on self-management because I have seen that people have changed their lives, the course of lives drastically from who they were and who they became. And if you look at Swami Vivekanand ji, he was living a life of a prince, but he wanted to do something for the world. He brought India into such a great limelight. He took the Hinduism to the world. He could motivate the youngsters. So I think there are also you yourself are a change agent for yourself.
Okay, just one last question. You, in the beginning, in your introduction, we said that you want to bring or you want to make this place happier. So what are your ideas? How you want to do that? Like from your research, how you want to take it further so that everyone becomes happier?
Right. So one first method that I did while I was writing a lot of other case studies and technical academic books. That was my first, contribution to the world, where I bought a book which moved into the popular channel, which is a book where for all. So I brought the concept, which is a technical concept, but the readership are general readers. So as an author, I'm able to connect to a large number of audience. My another book, of course, came, which was on more technical related to the somatic ink blot test. But my third book, which I'm now working on, which is I would say not a second edition, but on the same pattern, but is moving to the area of well-being, where you'll have much more details about LEAP and everything, which is going to be on well-being, completely dedicated. And that is going to be, I will try to, the manuscript is being finalized. I'm trying to make it as much as a handbook and self-help, so that you don't need to move into constantly to people. Third area that I love to do is, because I do a lot of social work in terms of I find, of course, less time for individual counseling, but I do take up important cases for psychotherapy. And I contribute a lot of time on geriatric population as well. So youth and geriatric population, these are two of my love for life, right? Because I feel that I love to empower youth, because any young entrepreneur who comes with an idea, so I've helped a lot of young entrepreneurs reach their dreams. So that is my small contribution. And finally, through spreading meaning in life, we can spread happiness. That's my belief. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wonderful dream, and I wish you all the best in your big dream. And I'm sure that with a lot of efforts and like hard work, you are going to achieve a great success in that. So, with that, I would like to thank you once again for sharing this knowledge. It really makes us very happy that when we see one Indian doing a original research and putting that in front of the world, and when people are accepting your proposition of the seventh intelligence, or like what we say, the quick sense, that is really make us very proud as an Indian. So thank you very much for coming to the Monday Motivation, and we will definitely invite you again for having more wisdom and sharing of knowledge with us. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Namaskar.
Yeah. Thank you. Namaste.